talking with the experts.
Are you using consent-based marketing in your business? My guest Tash Corbin in episode 339 explains why consent-based marketing is so important.
Yeah. And the thing that I see, particularly for people in my audience, so, I really work with those heart-centered entrepreneurs, people who want to change the world, they want to be of service and help people as part of their business. They see some of the toxic, fear-based marketing strategies, and they're so put off by that, and they don't want to be like that they go to the very other end of the spectrum. And so they don't do any sales. They don't do any marketing, right? It's almost like they're the best kept secret on the internet. And that's not the answer either. Because, I don't want the people who have strong ethics, values, and integrity to be hiding online and just waiting for people to come to them, which is why I created these principles of consent-based marketing, so that we can see that the answer is not to avoid marketing and sales in its entirety. The answer is to create a marketing and sales process or strategy that is deeply aligned to your values and ensures that you are honoring the consent that you have from the audience at every step of the process.
Welcome to Talking with the Experts. This is where we discuss great ideas to take your business to the next level. How do we know these ideas work? Well, it's because we're talking with business owners who are using these ideas. Business owners who have years of experience and expertise. All things business by business owners for business owners. And now, here is your host, Rose Davidson.
Hello, I'm Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com. Welcome to Talking with the Experts. Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners. You can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. And today my guest is Tash Corbin, and it is my absolute pleasure to introduce her to you. I've been wanting to get her on here for ages and ages, and she's finally had some space in her calendar to accommodate me. And a little bit about Tash is that she is a business and marketing strategist who specialises in heart-centred and content-based marketing. Consent-based marketing, I should say. Since 2013, she has been helping entrepreneurs to achieve their dreams and create a scalable lifestyle business through her mentoring programs, conferences, and abundance of free resources and training. Tash, welcome, and thank you so much for being here today.
No worries at all, Rose. I'm excited to be here. We're going to have a juicy combo.
Yes, we are. Now, what is consent-based marketing? Now, there's a lot of, I've never heard of it before. I've heard of direct response marketing, but not consent-based marketing. So what's the difference?
So there are a bunch of different marketing strategies. So direct response marketing would be a type of marketing strategy. Social media would be a marketing strategy. Content marketing is a marketing strategy. Consent-based marketing is whatever strategy you choose, making sure that it's built on a foundation of consent from your audience to move to the next stage of working with them. So we know about consent in the terms of maybe privacy or signing up to mailing lists, those sorts of things, where you need someone's consent to add them to your mailing list. But that is one very legal-based reason for ensuring that you have consent in the marketing process. Further to that, if we were to go next level in consent-based or consent-driven marketing, is to, rather than just tick the legal boxes of the things that you need to do in order to be allowed to email someone, is to create a marketing strategy or make decisions throughout that marketing strategy that ensure that your audience wants you to say what you're going to say, or wants to hear your pitch from them, or any of those sorts of things, where we are deeply basing the marketing strategy that you use on making sure that the person you are doing the marketing to actually wants it. So when it comes to consent-based marketing, it's looking at all of those ways that we sort of lean in towards our clients and giving clients the opportunity to consent to the next stage of the process. And when I explain consent-based marketing in that way, sometimes it sounds quite formal, but it's just little things like I don't slide into anyone's direct messages on social media unless I'm sure that they want me to send them a direct message. When I'm running a webinar or on a podcast like this one, I don't find ways to trick people into taking the next step with me, or bribe people to taking the next step with me, or use fear-based toxic marketing strategies to get people to take the next step with me. Instead, I invite people to take the next step with me, and I give them all the information that they need to make an informed decision. So it's simply respecting your audience, respecting every human being who is part of your business or is connected to your business, by allowing them to have a say in whether they take the next step or progress further or hear more about what it is that you have to offer them, rather than forcing it upon them without necessarily having their permission.
Yeah, it makes a heap of sense. I think that's probably the way I do my marketing. I give everyone, I'm so transparent that I love just to give everybody all the information first, how they can contact me, what steps they need to take, rather than having, funnels where, I give them a little bit of content which leads them to something else, then I retarget them and then retarget those people and then get their consent in the final stages. I don't particularly like that type of marketing. It's something that people do teach, but I'd rather just be so transparent up front and tell them the things that they need to know and how they can work with me.
Yeah. And the thing that I see, particularly for people in my audience, so, I really work with those heart-centered entrepreneurs, people who want to change the world, they want to be of service and help people as part of their business. They see some of the toxic, fear-based marketing strategies, and they're so put off by that, and they don't want to be like that they go to the very other end of the spectrum. And so they don't do any sales. They don't do any marketing, right? It's almost like they're the best kept secret on the internet. And that's not the answer either. Because, I don't want the people who have strong ethics, values, and integrity to be hiding online and just waiting for people to come to them, which is why I created these principles of consent-based marketing, so that we can see that the answer is not to avoid marketing and sales in its entirety. The answer is to create a marketing and sales process or strategy that is deeply aligned to your values and ensures that you are honoring the consent that you have from the audience at every step of the process. So what I find is, actually, for a lot of people who end up working with me in consent-based marketing, their issue is not that they've been sucked into doing the toxic marketing strategies. It's that they did a course and they were told to have a fake countdown timer on something to make urgency, and they didn't want to do that. And so it's put them off sales and marketing altogether. So this is a really beautiful way to unpack some of the things that you maybe have been told you have to do in order to make sales, you have to do in order to incentivize people to buy from you. It's unpacking all of those strategies and asking, at its core, is this aligned with my values and the way that I want to treat people and the way I want to be treated? And if not, what would be the consent-based approach to achieve the same or even sometimes better outcomes? So, an example of a better outcome is that in launch strategy, a lot of big launch strategists teach that you should send sometimes multiple emails a day to people who've opted into your launch. So this actually happened to me recently, where I actually purchased a $27 template kit, and within 4 days, I had received 8 emails trying to upsell me into the next thing. Now, when I purchased that $27 product, I did say yep, you can add me to your mailing list, but it didn't say to be emailed more than twice a day. It said to receive occasional updates from time to time and my regular newsletter with tips and advice. So for me, 8 emails in 4 days is not from time to time. And also in some of those emails, the language that was used was well, you're not going to succeed if you don't buy this next thing. Well, you've got 2 choices here. Either you buy this thing and succeed, or you don't and you'll fail, right? 2 choice theory is often used in marketing. So I unsubscribed. And the people who are teaching some of these processes and these email sequences and the funnels, I've heard them say things like a 15%, 20% unsubscribe rate is normal. So it's a burn and churn approach to marketing. One, it's actually not consent-based because I didn't have all the information to make an informed choice. If I had been told, I'm going to make you feel like you're going to fail and I'm going to send you 8 emails in the next 4 days, I would not have ticked that box to give my consent to those emails. I don't want to invite that kind of language or energy into my inbox. So number one, it wasn't consent-based because I didn't have all the information. And then number two, I unsubscribed, and you get very high unsubscribe rates when you use some of these marketing strategies. The launch strategy that I teach has 4 emails in a 10 to 12 day period, and it gets better than industry average conversion rates, and it gets an unsubscribe rate around 1%. So not only is consent-based marketing more values aligned and it feels better when we're doing it, it also ends up getting better results because those people stay on my mailing list for longer. If someone stays on my mailing list over 180 days, they are more likely to buy from me than if they leave within the first 180 days. But marketers will tell you, if someone doesn't buy from you in the first 30 days, they'll never buy from you. That's actually not true. And so marketing strategies are being taught based on untrue information and data to pressure people into using toxic consent bypassing strategies through this lens of, but that's the only way that you can get results, or that will increase that's the only way you get conversion. You've got to make them feel uncomfortable. Whereas my experience with myself, the clients and people that I work with, is that we actually get better results. Plus, we don't have to use some of those strategies that just are not in alignment with our values and who we want to be and how we want to show up in the world.
Yeah, I agree. I have often signed up for a freebie or a really low cost offer, and then you're right, they send toxic emails. They're scaremongering, saying if you don't purchase this next thing, you're going to be the next. You're not going to get anywhere. And you're right, you get it flooded with all these emails, and I end up unsubscribing because I only wanted the freebie.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be told that I was a loser. And two, I didn't want the next best thing. I just wanted the freebie or the low cost offer.
Yeah. And also, if we dive even deeper, some of the strategy that's taught is that when you do run a free webinar, for example, you don't want to give away too much for free because then they won't buy the next thing from you. So often I see people promoting a free webinar that promises you're going to achieve X outcome, and then that webinar doesn't deliver on it. The sales pitch is for the product that will deliver X outcome. Now, for me, that relationship is started on a lie. You said that the free webinar was going to teach me this outcome. And actually, all the free webinar taught me was the only way to get that outcome is to buy a product from you. I think that that's misleading. I don't think that that's appropriate. And so, there's a big difference between a free webinar at which the end of it, every person who attends, regardless of whether they buy from you or not, feels like it was a good use of their time and that they got an outcome from it, versus a free webinar that if you didn't buy, you ended up feeling worse off than when you started, right? And I think a lot of webinars, a lot of free 5-day challenges, a lot of free training, a lot of video workshops, a lot of content out there is actually the second category. When you finish it, if you don't buy the thing, you feel worse off than when you started. And a lot of marketers justify this by saying, yeah, but the ones who buy are the ones who are getting, they're the action takers. They're the ones willing to invest in themselves. And so therefore they're the ones who deserve the outcome, right? By somehow your budget is an indicator of your level of worthiness, which I absolutely find abhorrent. But, there's a lot of stuff out there, right, that does this. And it makes people feel like if I don't buy the thing, I'm not successful. Whereas my mission, whenever I run a webinar, whenever I do anything for free, whenever I create any program, regardless of whether there's an upsell or not, is that everyone thinks it was a good use of their time. Everyone walks away with that outcome because I believe that my programs, my services are so deeply transformational and so worth the value that I don't have to build all of my marketing strategy based on the fear that if I somehow give away too much information in a 1-hour webinar, they're never going to buy from me. If someone's only barrier between them and achieving their goals is coming to a free 1 hour webinar, they're not a fit for my programs. They're not a fit to, they don't need to work with me one-to-one. Why would I lure them in and force them to buy a full-on mentoring program from me when actually they just needed the little advice that I gave them in the webinar? And then even further to that, people who come to my webinars get amazing information, don't need to buy from me, become my biggest raving fans online, and create this amazing snowball. I build relationships based on authenticity, integrity, trust, right? Deeply delivering on value, delivering on my promises. And so for me, that is exactly the type of business that I want to be in. I don't want to be in the business of misleading people, of just giving them one tiny little nugget and wasting an hour of their day for them to get that one tiny little nugget that's wedged in between 20 minutes of me talking myself up and 40 minutes of sales pitch. I'm not interested in treating people that way because, to be frank, I don't like being treated that way. And also, I think it would make me avoid being in my business, because who wants to be in a business where you know that part of the work that you do is misleading and wasting people's time? That just feels so out of values alignment and out, like, just, it feels ridiculous to me that people think that that's a good way of doing business.
Yeah, the big FOMO, pitch is, I hate it. And you go to a webinar and you're right, the first 30 minutes is talking about themselves, and offering really no value. I mean, who cares about how many awards they've won and, what their past was and, how many children they've got and, if they've got a dog or a cat or a bird or, they went swimming and whatever. I don't care. I went to the webinar to learn something.
Yeah.
And, and then the final part of the webinar, you're right, it's just an upsell to something else. Well, I'm not interested in that either. I went to there to learn something, not to be sold to, not to be, given some education on somebody that I really don't care about as I don't mean that in a nasty way, but I don't care about their past history. It doesn't have any interest in me.
And also, like, I do find people's backstories fascinating. I mean, people love your podcast because they want to hear the behind the scenes of the business and all of that kind of thing. But then if that's all it's going to be, tell us that that's what it's going to be, right? Mm-hmm. So people subscribe to your podcast because this is the type of thing that they want to get from you, right? Is you're asking questions of other entrepreneurs and other business owners that they will find the answer to that fascinating. So they listen to the podcast for that. They don't sign up to a webinar about achieving XYZ in your business to hear the same thing that they would hear from a podcast of yours. So it's, I'm not saying that your story as an entrepreneur isn't interesting, but I'm saying, like, be upfront about what the majority of the content is going to be about. Absolutely. And another thing is that, like, there's been a move away sometimes from, well, why am I an expert? And then what ends up happening is that in the webinar, they'll present 12 case studies of their very best clients with their very best results without talking about the hardship or the time they were rocking the corner in the fetal position. And those case studies are used as, like, well, I got that person that result. I helped that person get that result. So they're also, like, what I call it, claiming someone else's success. They didn't actually run that person's launch or create that person's course or run that person's socials. They gave them some advice, but that client did the work. That's that client's success. And, I see quite a bit. There'll be case studies, or someone has this amazing, like, their first ever $50,000 month. And there are 6 people online who are all saying, oh, I did that. I got that person's success, right? It's because they worked with me as a copywriter. It's because they worked with me as a mindset specialist. It's because they worked with me as a business mentor. It's because they did my launch strategy, right? So I'm not interested in claiming my clients' successes. People often online were like, oh my gosh, thanks to Tash's takeoff program, blah, 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 I was able to do this. And I'm the first person commenting saying, I may have helped you with some strategy, but you did the work. Stop outsourcing your success. Stop offloading it to me, right? Your success is your success. And the reflection I see of this in another form is, think about, I don't know if you have friends like this, but I've definitely had friends like this, where someone has, like, lost some weight, for example, right? They're, like, going on a fitness journey and they're, like, doing amazing. They're looking amazing. And whenever they've achieved success, they outsource that. They say, oh, it's because of this program, or my PT has smashed me and it's amazing, right? When something goes right, we give the reason for it going right to someone else. But when they put the weight back on, or something goes wrong, or something hasn't worked, they don't blame the program, they blame themselves, right? Oh yeah, well, I fell off the wagon, I did this is wrong with me. No one stops and goes, well, actually, that fatty diet, program was designed to get me short-term results, but ultimately didn't change the beliefs and habits underneath for me. And so therefore it's the program's fault no one blames the program, everyone blames themselves. And I see the same in online business. People have success in their online business. They're very quick to say it's because of their mentor, or it's because of a certain program that they've used, or it's because of a certain system. But when things go wrong, they take on far too much responsibility for things going wrong. Oh, it's because I'm not hungry enough. It's because I didn't work hard enough. It's because I haven't sorted my messaging yet. And I'm not saying that as the business owner, it's not our responsibility, but I think it's important that if you claim the success, you also claim the failure. And if you claim the failure, you also claim the success. So, I think it's important, especially I find for women, non-binary people who come from LGBTQ backgrounds, like those people are the first to outsource their success to a mentor, and they're the first to take the blame when it goes wrong. And so, I think for me, that's also forms part of consent-based business, is that we acknowledge that our client's success is because the client did the work. We don't claim their success. So, if you think about it, we really dig into consent-based business, it starts with make sure you have permission. But as we explore, it's also don't use toxic strategies that start your relationship on a lie. And then it's think about empowering people who don't even buy from you. And it's well, what is the impact of the way that you claim people's successes? You can see how it starts sort of from a legal perspective, but it has this amazing process of kind of expanding to the point where we are all whole, amazing human beings, and we are all responsible for our own things. And we don't divert the power of our results to another person. We actually just learn from each other in a peer-to-peer relationship, instead of putting mentors on pedestals, instead of making other people responsible for our success and taking too much responsibility for when a program is not designed appropriately and doesn't get results. Mm-hmm. So, the other thing I see is I've joined a program before to learn how to create group programs. And in the very first week of that program, the mentor said, if someone buys your program and they don't do it, that's their fault. That has nothing to do with you. And actually, I don't agree with that. If you haven't created a program that maximizes the chance that someone's going to complete it, that gives people the opportunity to overcome barriers to learning, that has, multimodal learning opportunities, then actually you haven't held up your end of the bargain, right? We don't sell people into a program with the very specific, only join this program if you can do 6 hours a week, you are a good auditory learner, because most of the content is auditory only. You don't see marketers saying that. And then if someone joins the program and the teaching style doesn't suit their learning style, that's the program creator's responsibility. That is actually part of your responsibility. So whenever anyone joins one of my programs, in the first module, I say, this is a process of co-creation. I've done my best to create a program that's going to maximize your results, ensure that you complete it. But if you get stuck along the way, here's how I can help you move forward, right? So instead of just saying, well, you've bought it now, it's your problem, I also acknowledge that as the creator of the program, I have a responsibility to ensure the program is fit for purpose and does its job. And so it's a beautiful way of existing in the online business world. One, because it's a competitive advantage, because there's not a lot of other people doing that. But two, also because I jump out of bed in the morning to work in my business because it feels good. I know that my community, my audience, and my clients are getting the best of me, and they're getting the most powerful way to work with me without me having to make them feel small or say that I'm better than them, or, use any of those weird strategies that leave some people feeling completely traumatized in some cases. and saying, well, unless you buy my program, it's not my problem. Or even if you buy my program and it doesn't work for you, it's not my problem, right? It's taking that appropriate level of responsibility for the things that I sell and the way that I show up online.
Yeah, I always over deliver whatever it is that I'm doing. Anyone who knows me knows that I over deliver everything. So the courses that I've done, it's like step by step by step, and it's explained appropriately. And even on my landing pages that I say this course is for you if, and it's not for you if, for whatever other reasons. And I was told, no, don't put that, it'll put people off. And I thought, no, I need to tell people who the course is for, and if you're not a good fit if you don't fit this criteria. I think, I just don't like trashy or toxic marketing, because I think you're right, it makes the person who doesn't complete the course or program or whatever it is, it makes them feel like that they're a total failure, when in fact they're not. It's the course itself was either boring or didn't trigger some need in them that because I hate going to boring courses, and most times I will pay for a course and only do half of it because the lessons are really boring, and they don't trigger something in me that wants me to succeed to finish it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been in plenty of programs where I can see the seller of the program has put 10 times the effort into selling the program than in making the program. And, I don't think that that's in values alignment. And I don't think that that's setting you up for long-term success in your business. We've seen a lot of businesses close and a lot of online entrepreneurs fizzle out because they're not delivering on the promise, and it's just this giant pyramid scheme basically. And if you keep paying and keep buying things, they'll keep platforming you so that they've got great testimonials and success stories. But if you're not one of those people who can afford to or are motivated to keep investing and keep paying them, then you're just left as one of those remnants of that program that they never really finished or they never really delivered.
I've been to a few of those types of courses where if I didn't buy the next level, I wasn't good enough, or I wasn't motivated enough, or I wasn't hungry enough. And I think, well, that's really wrong. And these are quite well-known people, and I think your marketing strategy is just doesn't align with my ethics at all. So
I feel the same. I mean, I've even been to my share of live events where they do the run to the back of the room, and then they shame people who didn't invest or didn't run to the back of the room and buy the thing, and make them feel absolutely horrendous. I know also, there are some live events where they're using hypnosis in the sales process to get people to buy. So, I won't name names, but a very famous male coach out there, you'll go to his event, and towards the end of the event, he'll start saying, so by now you'll be thinking, but it gets you to close your eyes, and they play, binaural beats, and it says, by now you'll be thinking this, by now you're probably starting. And he's not saying by now, B-Y now, he's saying B-U-Y now, right? By now. They've got you in a hypnotic state, and they're saying over and over again, by now, by now, by now. And then lo and behold, the next thing they do is present an offer. And so, I think that there's a lot to be unpacked. And one of the challenges for online marketers, and I want to just say to everyone who's listening now, if you feel like maybe you've been using some of these strategies, I want you to know that that's totally okay, because we get taught these strategies without being taught why we're using these strategies. And so people see strategies like this. I've been to someone's webinar before where they're using this same, like, buy now, buy now, buy now. And I sent them a message. I was like, why are you using the buy now hypnosis on your webinars? I wouldn't think that you'd do that. She's like, what are you talking about? Like, my mentor gave me this slide deck and I just fill in the blanks. I was like, well, actually that slide deck is built on getting people into a hypnotic state and using two choice theory. Like, you only have two choices right now, to manipulate people into making a decision quickly. And when she found out, she was like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe that I did that. But like, we don't even know what we're being taught, because it's this trickle down of these strategies. Your mentor probably learned it from their mentor, who learned it from their mentor, and doesn't even realize that the origin of that strategy is based on psychological manipulation to get people to buy now. And so, the one thing I say to people is, like, right now, line in the sand, forgive yourself for having potentially bought into using some of these strategies and treating people this way and accepting some of this information that's shared by marketing gurus as fact, right? Line in the sand, you didn't know, but now you know. It's our job as business owners to start being more discerning about the marketing tactics and strategies that we use, and just ask yourself the question, why have I been told that I need to do this? Which of the parts of my marketing process do I feel quite uncomfortable about, right? For most of us, we intuitively and instinctively know there's something off about a thing we've been told to do, or a lie we've been told to tell, a white lie that we've been told to tell, right? We instinctively know that feels out of alignment. So your job, if you want to start moving towards consent-based marketing, is simply to pay attention to that gut feeling and to apply some discernment and unpack which strategies you've been taught, and just ask the question, why have I been taught to tell people this? Why have I been taught to say this in my marketing? And is that something I want to use moving forward?
Great advice, Tash. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now,
Yeah.
have you got anything that you'd like to share with our audience today?
I do. So I actually have a workshop that I've run before at my conference on how to embed consent-based practice into your business and use it as a competitive advantage. So we'll put with the show notes of today's episode a little link where people can go and grab that one for free if they'd like.
Oh, that would be lovely. Thank you so much for being so generous. Tash, where can people find you if they'd like to work with you or they'd like to learn a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah, well, I'm mostly on Facebook. My Facebook handle is @Tash Corbin Coaching. And I'm also playing on Instagram these days as well. So I'm @Tash Corbin on Instagram. And my website is tashcorbin.com.
Perfectly perfect. Any last words of wisdom that you'd like to share today?
Yeah, I think that the people are becoming more and more savvy to some of the manipulative practices that are used in marketing and sales strategies these days. And so, if you want to show up in a way that feels deeply aligned to your values and feels like you're actually being helpful, not just when you work with clients, but also in your marketing, and you're helping the world and making the world a better place with your marketing, then start by unpacking the strategies that you use and looking for those times where you could build in some consent-based practices. And honestly, it means that for me, my marketing is just as joyful and just as empowering as the delivery and working with clients. A lot of people, they say, oh, I wish I could just work with my clients and I didn't have to do the marketing part. I don't wish that, because the marketing part is just as helpful. It's just as empowering. It's just as brilliant as the working with the paying clients. And it's a beautiful model of business to work in.
Lovely. That is a great tip. And thank you so much for sharing that. Tash, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with me.
No problem at all, Rose. Thanks so much for having me on the podcast.
All right. We'll talk soon. Bye for now.
You've been listening to Talking with the Experts, hosted by Rose Davidson. Make sure you have a look at our back catalogue over at talkingwiththeexperts.com. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any episode. We look forward to your company next time. Talking with the Experts.